Hey there, introverts and deep thinkers. Welcome to Introverts Unmuted, the podcast where we prove that quiet doesn't mean invisible and deep thoughts deserve a mic. If you've ever felt drained by small talk, mastered the art of sneaking out of the room, or wished the world understood the magic of solitude, this is your space. We dive into everything from navigating social energy to embracing creativity, confidence, and the unique power of being an introvert. So get comfy, plug in, and let's turn up the volume on our quiet confidence. I'm Amber Hansel, and this is Introverts Unmuted. Today, I have with me Maggie. Welcome. She is a business consultant, writer, and podcaster. She works with service business owners to help them build businesses that's strategic, sustainable, and built for real life, which is exactly what we need.
Yes, thanks so much for having me, Amber. As an introvert, I'm excited for this conversation.
Yes, exactly. And you wrote a book called Staying Solo. I have read it. I love it because there are so many of us that our business advice or the books that we read are not built for us.
It's so true. And that's why I wrote the book. I had several friends who were like, you've done so many podcast episodes on this. You've been consulting on this for so long. Can you please write this book? And so many of my clients are introverted, they're neurodivergent, and traditional business advice just doesn't work for them. And I'm definitely all those things too. So I was really excited to be able to bring this together to recognize like it's not one size fits all. And not everyone wants a team or to be really loud on the internet and to be this like big personality. Some people just, and I shouldn't say just, they want a business that works for them, how their brain works and how their life works.
Yeah, exactly. Because when we listen to all that advice, that's when we burn out. We wonder, why isn't this working? And we want to burn everything down. And that's because it isn't working for us. That's not how our brain works. That's not how our energy works. And so when we decide, hey, I'm going to do it this way, it really changes things.
Yeah. And I think the thing is too, like we don't, at least, when I started my business 20 plus years ago, like it was just assumed you had to be an extrovert to be things like even working in the jobs I had, like I was encouraged to be more than be less of a thinker and a processor and more like you need to be more extroverted with clients, you need to be this way. And being my own boss, I've been able to really navigate like, hey, how do I actually really make this work for me? And where those things are seen and appreciated for what they are. Like I might not be the most showiest or the loudest person in the room, but I can bring that quiet confidence, that strategy, and that real thoughtfulness that a lot of other people are missing.
Yeah, we have a special strengths that when we acknowledge them and understand how we can observe and really be intentional about when we're speaking, then people are going to listen more and people are going to lead into these conversations because we go deeper. We don't stay at the surface. And that's a lot of times what businesses need is to go deeper.
Yeah, I think so much and I talk about this in the first 3 chapters of the book where I'm really setting up the culture of entrepreneurship, the ecosystem around it, the business advice we're given. And so much of what's out there is so generalized. It's lacking context and it's lacking nuance. And what the majority of business owners, introverted or not, they need some individualization. They need to be able to take the advice, make it work for them, or be able to discern like, hey, this isn't actually for me. This is for a different type of business owner. This is for a different personality type. And that is totally okay. It's not this like, you have to check all these boxes. And a place I see this show up a lot with my clients is like, oh, I find being on video exhausting. I'm like, well, maybe you shouldn't be trying to launch a YouTube channel.
Yeah, there's so many times that we are told, hey, start a YouTube channel. Video is really big. LinkedIn is really pushing video content right now. It's like, well, that's not how I want to show up. So don't. Because we also have to remember that the online space, we get to make up the rules.
Yes.
You don't have to do anything. There's no shoulds. There's no have tos. It's what you want to do and what is going to feel good to you.
Yeah. And I think when you think about the core components and those foundational elements of your business, you want to build that business and run that business in a way that it's ultimately going to work for you. And I talk a lot about, not just capacity from the perspective of time, but capacity in terms of energy and emotion and even sensory capacity, and recognizing like, how do I bake these things into my business? How do I set healthy boundaries around them? So I am not setting myself up to be, burnt to a crisp, to have to recover for 3 days after a day of meetings, because we just can't do a day of meetings or whatever it is. So recognizing like how you best work and really trying to design the business and run the business around that, and not apologizing for it. If someone wants to constantly, talk to me on the phone every day, we're probably not going to be a good fit as me as a provider for them.
Yeah. And it's really about setting those boundaries and then really adhering to them and not wavering on them, because many of us are people pleasers and we want, people to be happy. We don't always want conflict because that's not what we're here for. And so, but it's so important for us to set those boundaries and, like you said, not be apologetic about it. Say, no, I can't do that. I can do 1 call per week with you. That is what it is. They're either going to say yes or they're going to say no. And that's has to be okay.
Yeah. And I think the greatest thing I have seen is now we've gone from everything can be done asynchronously. Not everything has to be like, yes, there's times it makes sense to get on a Meets or Zoom with a client, but not everything has to be done that way. We have so many amazing tools to collaborate with people that before just didn't exist. And like, how do we make use of them? How do we build systems in the business that are simple, but help us ensure the business is actually sustainable for us and the way we need to be working?
Yeah. And I love how you brought up systems, because as introverts, that allows us and neurodivergents to not be on all the time. So that email can still go out, posts can still go out, the contracts and invoices, everything can still function without us.
Yeah. And so many times people think, like, especially as a solo business owner, oh, I don't need a lot of systems. But what we fail to recognize is that everything we do in our business is a system, from our bookkeeping to our onboarding to, weekly call notes if you have a weekly call with like a corporate client or something. So how do you build those systems around it to preserve your energy so you're not having to do things manually, especially now with, I have really mixed feelings on AI, but there's a lot of tools we can be using to really improve the client experience and improve the experience for us as the business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. We can be a solo business owner and not have to do it all. And I think that's, yes, you have to take the time to set up the systems and really understand them. But then there is less pressure for you to continually show up as a solo business owner.
Yeah. And in the systems chapter, I walk through like, here's a really simple approach to systems, because the thing I've seen continuously is people like over engineer the system. I'm like, no, when I talk about a system, I'm talking about like, do you have templates? Do you have a process attached? Like let's think this through so that you're not letting that take up brain space. Every time you onboard a new client, you shouldn't be like, what do I do again?
Yeah. And I think it's that brain space, because we have limited brain space. There's a lot that goes on. And so we don't want to have to think about it all the time. Like, my podcast, people fill out a questionnaire and then I personally send an email to book the call. But that's because I read through, but I have a template set up. I'm not writing this all the time. There are templates set up for me to continue the process.
Yeah. And I think that's a great example, Amber, of like saving yourself from yourself. Like, honestly, so many people are operating from a place of just kind of winging it. And there comes a point in your business where you don't have enough time to wing it. You don't have enough energy or capacity to wing it. So, how can you take a little bit of time and set things up so that it's simpler every single time you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the more that you're doing something, then you can be like, ooh, maybe I'm going to add this in. Oh, that's really good. I'm not going to do that. And really tweaking your system to fit in with you and how you're running. And also the seasons that you're in. Every season might be different. Right now it's going to be maybe a lot, or, Q4 can be really busy season or Q1. So really debate like where are you at in your business and in your life that you need extra systems.
Yeah, and being very realistic. I mean, I have an entire chapter on not just systems, but on seasons. Like there are different seasons in your business depending on what's going on in your life, what client commitments you have, what might be going on with you personally, physically, emotionally, all of those things. Like I know for me, I have seasonal depression. So I know through my Canadian winter that I need to I need to lean on my systems, but also I need to plan in a way that is accounting for my actual capacity. And the biggest thing I see, especially introverted solo business owners, like constantly the overestimating, being really, really optimistic. And it's like build for the actual, real life capacity you have, not the fantasy version of what you need to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I am in Alberta, so I really feel that January, I am not in this new year situation. I'm in hibernation.
Same.
Fall to me, my birthday is October. So I am like, that's my new year is October, right? And so when we understand not only the outdoor seasons, but our own seasons, then we can work our business and have all of it be more in sync.
Yeah. And I mean, when you look at, like, I started my business when I have a baby and I now have a 21-year-old. My capacity has changed over those years. I've dealt with aging parents, different family things. And like the capacity I had when I had a baby versus a toddler versus school-age child versus a child who's left the house now is very different. And it's always going to be ebbing and flowing. And so many times we want it to just be, we crave this stability when it's like, we have to be able to kind of flow with things and recognize we may be in a very different season. Or you might look at a business friend who they're a lot like you, but maybe they're in a totally different season. They have different constraints or different capacity limits, and that's okay. And I think it's really important we don't compare. We just are very realistic with ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we can't compare it to someone like I have a 10 and 7-year-old, and currently at the time of this recording in October, Alberta teachers are on strike.
Yeah.
My kids are home. That has switched. But I have also started this business with a baby and toddler. I've also homeschooled them and ran a business. They're in school. There is this. Every day is different.
Yes.
I also have a part-time job that I work around this. And really understanding, hey, these are my capacities and this is my priority list. And that's all I have.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things when we talk about planning, like people want to do it in a very rigid way. But I think what you said about priorities, like that's really how I approach it is like, let's plan around the actual priorities we have in the business. But let's look at what the priorities are life-wise, because those are going to dictate everything else. And for years, I would have clients who'd be like, I have 10 things I want to do in the next 3 months. And I'd be like, yeah, but you told me you have no daycare. You're going on vacation. Your mom is sick. I'm like, let's cull that list back down. And I think that's the optimism. We are excited our businesses. We really want to do everything, but we don't have to do it all at once.
Yeah, we can spread it out and no one's going to know.
Exactly.
That's the thing is we think people know about things and they don't. And really taking that pressure off of just letting it flow and realizing that, yes, the online space is 24/7, but we don't have to be. You don't have to answer comments right away. You don't have to answer messages or emails right away. There is time.
There is time. And I think recognizing like the majority of us are not doing things that are where there's actually ever a true emergency. Like I'm not saving lives here. So, sometimes something will come up for a client where I'm like, hey, yeah, you do need a little bit of extra attention, but it's like within a reasonable time frame, not like it doesn't have to be done this minute. And I feel like if the more you can untether from that, the better boundaries you have with yourself, with your clients, with the business, and you can really be protecting the things you have to be protecting as an introvert.
Yeah. And when we set those boundaries and protect that energy, it actually like feeds back into our lives and our business. Because the stricter your boundaries are, the better things are. And when you can focus more on life and baking bread and hanging out with your kids doing Lego, it's like easier for you to then show up online.
Yeah. And like for example, like I know the next 2 weeks I have this project comes every year with one of my clients. I know it's very intense. So I know for the next 2 weeks, I am going to be on capital ON, like, I'm going to bring in I'm going to be summoning all my extroverted energy. But I also know the week after that, I have booked nothing. I'm basically like, I'm not going to be off, but I'm going to be like recharging with a book.
Yeah.
Because that's just as important as me being able to deliver for that client. And, before I really understood this, I would have just carried on and been like, I understand why I'm so tired. Oh, I don't want to talk to anybody. And I'd be in a bad mood and I'd be grouchy and I'd be resentful. Now I'm just like, after an event or after anything, I'm like, there's always got to be buffer for me, because I know that once my battery is empty, it's empty. And if we don't give time for it to charge back up, we're going to have problems.
Yeah. And this has come up almost every episode that I do, is that we have to have a buffer time.
Yeah.
Before and after. We need to prepare ourselves. We need to, make sure that we are in that right headspace to extrovert. Yes. And then we need to come down from it and recharge and become back to ourselves. And that is so key in every person that I've talked to, is that if I don't do that, then I am not a very nice person. I am not a good person.
Yeah. And it makes it, for me, it makes it so much easier to get through whatever the thing is, where I'm like, okay, we can do this. Monday, we're good. Monday, we can do whatever we want. And I think that even goes like from transitioning from like being on vacation. Like, don't just jump back into client calls. Have a couple days to get yourself oriented in the business. I think so many times I would just be like flowing back into things, and I'd be like, oh, why is it like this? I've learned it all the hard way.
I think most of us have, and we really need that transition time, because if you have a kid, they need that transition time. You can't just get them to do something right after another. There's like a pause. There's like a break that they need to register what actually is happening. And then you can see their little minds working to decide if they actually want to do that task or not. But that's that transition phase that we need also. And even day to day, like if your kids are at school, before they come home, if I'm at home, I like to take that time. Half an hour before they get home. What am I doing before? And I think that's so key throughout our day, is transitioning from task to task.
And it's interesting, Amber, though, because I think we generally don't think about the transitions within the day as well, as like we just like, okay, I'm done, jump to the next thing. And like that is something that just drains the battery so quickly. And I know for me, with having ADHD, like that intersection of introversion and ADHD, my transitions can be very challenging for me. And I've had to learn, like, I need routines and rituals to kind of move me through different parts of the day. I'm kind of like, I always think, like, you're kind of like a toddler. Like, you need a snack, you need to like lie down. I need to like I need those transitions to move me on to the next part of the day.
Yeah. And I don't think we think about them enough, but they're so important to us staying upbeat throughout the whole day. Because we don't even sometimes think of the whole 24 hours can be exhausting. There's calls, there's messages, your kids are fighting, or whatever it is, the dog is going crazy. All of that is draining your energy. Yes. And having a 5 a.m. morning routine is not going to fix that.
No, and I think here's the thing, like, the 5 a.m. morning routine is the greatest example because it's so like prolific in the business world, but it doesn't work for most people. So if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And, or if, like energetically, like with creative work, I recognized I work best in the evenings, and I'm in a stage in my life where I can do that. So I sometimes shuffle my schedule around and don't start work till later, because I'm like, I know like my best creative hours are between like 8 and 10 p.m. And like, that's when I'm got the most energy, and that's when it's going to work best for me. And like, I don't apologize for that. I just do it.
Yeah. And I think we need to learn when our peak energy times are. I know that in the morning, not too early in the morning, but in the morning between 7:30, 8 a.m., I need to start working and get creative and do all of that. And then I am good for the rest of the day, and I can just check messages and hang out and do what I need to do, which is usually in my kitchen lately. But that's what works for me. And like you said, you're at the opposite end. And so really understanding and saying, this is when I do my work and this is how it is.
Yeah. And I think a lot of this goes to like the idea of thinking about like what support and what resources do I need in the business. So there is a chapter that's all about support, and it's not support like, hey, I have to hire a business coach. Like, yes, that's a great example, but like, what tools do I need? What supports do I need in my personal life to run the business? And, maybe those are different tools. Maybe they're different people. Maybe you need just a business friend where you have an accountability call, but understanding for you with the way you work best, what are the things that are going to help you, really make it easier for yourself. And so many times it's really simple things that we don't recognize. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've just been like, maybe you need to discuss this with your therapist. And that's not a flippant thing I'm saying to clients, but like that could, for some people, that's going to be the thing they need to figure it out. Like, so to be like, okay, what do I actually need? Not just defaulting kind of conventional wisdom of like, oh, well, what I should do is X, Y, or Z. I would challenge you to really think about like, what is it I actually need? How can I ensure I'm well resourced? And it doesn't have to always be like, I'm going to spend a bunch of money to do that.
Yeah, I think it's because we have to remember our business as solopreneurs is part of our life.
Yes.
It is our life. So working that into it, it's not two separate entities. Yeah. And I think many times we think of it that way, but once they become more intertwined, that's when we can see, okay, what kind of support do I need? Is it that I need childcare twice a week so I can get some stuff done? Do I need to hire a house cleaner? Or, those tasks can really benefit our business. Or is it, oh, I want to hire this business coach, but asking yourself, does she support you with what you need right now?
Yes. And I think part of it is, do they support you with what you need right now? And I think from an introvert's perspective, like, are they going to support me in the way I need to work? Because a lot of times, and Amber, I'm sure you've had this experience, like people just don't get it. And then they're trying to force you into this place that just does not work for you.
Yeah. Like I find it exhausting to show up to calls every week and to send out 300 emails that you've requested that I send out and all of this. And did I do it? Absolutely. Did I burn out? Yes, because that was not for me. And so really understanding your people and your audience is going to serve you a lot better.
Yeah, the other one I see a lot, because I do work with a lot of people who are introverted and neurodivergent, is they'll join communities where they are in community with people that are so not like them, like so extroverted, and they just feel completely forgotten. So understanding kind of what, is this a space that's introvert friendly? Is this a space that's neurodivergent friendly? Like, is this going to actually work for me? That's really, really important, because you want to make sure you're getting the most out of an experience if you're paying for that.
Yeah, and I think you have to understand the questions you need to ask before you go into these.
Yes.
To ask for support. Is it actually going to support you in what you need and how you are? And so asking the tough questions. And if they can't answer those, then it's not going to be a fit for you.
Yeah. And the other place I see this a lot is like people joining community-based things when really they need one-to-one support. Like if you are someone, like I do much better with one-to-one. So I seek out one-to-one. And it took me a while to learn that. But I realized in a group, I'm probably going to hang back a little bit. And I probably am not going to get what I need out of the experience, because I'm just going to let the people with way more to say and not way more to say, but like the loudest voice, I'm probably going to be like, oh, you're exhausting me. Okay.
Yeah. And then we start tuning out. We're not getting that experience. So really going, what is that group? And maybe you want a small group, but make sure the people in the group are going to fit in. And that is also up to the facilitator of the group to manage everyone and to really not put you on the spot, because that can be terrifying as an introvert or neurodivergent. We are not prepared. And so really understanding how that group works.
Yeah. And I think anytime you are considering joining something, like asking those questions is really, really important. Do they have a community code of conduct? How do they ensure everyone is included? Like, what are the things they are doing from a facilitation point of view? Because I've been in groups that like were terribly facilitated. And honestly, facilitation is a skill that I don't think people recognize that is so, so critical to those spaces.
It really is. And so making sure that you are welcome in those spaces and have a voice. And because you can still be very quiet and have a voice, you have confidence and you can use it.
Exactly.
So Maggie, your book, I have it here, Staying Solo. You guys should definitely go check it out. How can we connect with you and learn more about your book, your podcast, all the good stuff?
So the book is everywhere books are sold, Amazon, Kobo, all the places. Honestly, you will find it. But you can also go to bsfreebusiness.com/book, and that will have all the links of all the places it's available. It's available in ebook and print format. My podcast is Staying Solo, and that is everywhere podcasts are. Wherever you're listening to this, that's where you'll find my podcast. And then, from a capacity perspective, I would love for people to, I have a quiz that's called the Real Life Rule, that's really looking at your capacity. It spits out a result in about 2 minutes and gives you some very specific recommendations. And it's definitely built with capacity conscious people in mind. And you can check that out at bsfreebusiness.com/quiz.
Awesome. I will have all the links in the show notes so you can make sure that you go click them, follow, do all the stuff, go buy the book. Thank you so much, Maggie, for coming on chat.
Thanks so much, Amber.